As long as they're going to steal it, we want them to steal ours. They sort of get addicted, and then we somehow figure out how to collect sometime in the next decade. So it's a great place to be involved.
Why big tech let you use cracked software? Sounds strange, right? But that logic might be smarter than it sounds. Have you ever wondered how Adobe ended up dominating the creative software world? One big reason: Adobe's products were easier to crack. And that may not have been a mistake. Because sometimes, letting people use cracked software is the most profitable, long-term move. In this video, you'll see how tech giants not only tolerate cracked software, they use it as a growth strategy to build user habits, dominate markets, and eventually make billions from the very users who never paid at first. You're about to see a very different side of the software business where the real strategy isn't legal enforcement. It's psychology. The story of Avid. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, Avid Media Composer was the gold standard for professional video editing. Hollywood studios, television networks, even major newsrooms all cut on Avid. The company sold not just software, but expensive turnkey hardware, specialized storage, and rigid license dongles you had to plug into the workstation. Total cost? $40, negative $60K per editing bay. Avid protected that ecosystem fiercely. Hardware lock-in. The software wouldn't even launch without proprietary cards and a physical dongle. Strict license checks. No dongle, no boot up. Updates refused to run on non-authorized machines. Enterprise-only pricing. No student edition, no demo longer than 30 days. Meanwhile, Adobe Premiere, later bundled into Creative Suite, and Apple Final Cut Pro took the opposite path. Pure software. Ran on any off-the-shelf PC or Mac. Simple serial keys, easy for hobbyists to share and for crackers to patch out. Affordable or even free. Schools, film clubs, and online forums traded bootleg copies openly. Guess what happened next? Film schools and YouTube newbies learned on Premiere and Final Cut because they could install them in a dorm room for $0. 5 years later, those students were hired by ad agencies, production houses, and streaming startups. What did they recommend the boss buy? The tools they already knew. Overnight, Adobe's Creative Suite became the default in small studios. Apple-owned indie filmmakers. Avid's ironclad stronghold shrank to a niche of high-end broadcasters. Market share numbers tell the story. Avid once commanded over 90% of Pro NLE seats in the late 90s. By the mid-2010s, that figure had slid below 20% outside top-tier Hollywood post houses. In short, locking the software too tightly protected short-term revenue but ceded an entire generation of users to rivals who let their products spread, legally or not. Adobe won mass adoption. Avid spent the next decade downsizing, repositioning, and ironically switching to subscription pricing far too late. Adobe gained market share. Avid fell behind. And if you want the opposite approach and that didn't fight piracy, it'll look no further than WinRAR. WinRAR, the 40-day trial that lasted 20 years. And if you're still not convinced this strategy works, just look at WinRAR. It's a commercial file compression tool that officially offers a 40-day trial. But what happens after 40 days? Nothing. The software still works. No features are locked. No functions disappear. Just one polite message. Please purchase a license. The result? Hundreds of millions of people around the world use WinRAR without paying. And yet everyone knows it, trusts it, and chooses it over competitors. More importantly, businesses, schools, and institutions who do need legal licenses still buy it. WinRAR didn't have to be cracked. They intentionally left the door open. And in return, they've been installed on nearly every computer for 2 decades. Bottom line, cracked software is bad. Unless it leads to long-term adoption, then it's just brilliant marketing. Cracked is just the top of the funnel. To most people, cracked software looks like theft. To big tech, it's just step 1 in a long-term funnel. Crack, use, habit, loyalty, payment. Let's break that down. Someone uses a cracked copy of Photoshop in college. They practice, improve, build their creative identity around it. 5 years later, they're working in an agency. And guess which tool the company pays for? The one they know. The one they're good at. The one they cracked years ago. This isn't theory, it's strategy. When you make your product the habit, payment becomes inevitable eventually. Here's the twist. Most people already know the idea of funnel strategy, giving away a free version to attract users. But few realize cracked software works the same way. In both cases, the goal is identical. Get users hooked, then monetize later. So maybe the real question isn't, can people crack your product? It's, if they do, will they care enough to come back and pay? Because in business, strategy opens the door, but only value creates loyalty. When cracked software does do damage, but not every company is Adobe. Not every user becomes a customer. Startups can't afford to be freemium by force. Just a few cracked downloads might be the difference between surviving or going broke. Indie creators, game devs, musicians, one unauthorized download? No problem. But when thousands do it, you lose income you'll never get back. So before using cracked software, ask yourself, are you hurting a small business or an individual creator? Or are you just avoiding paying for something you actually can afford? Cracked software isn't just about ethics or law. Sometimes it's strategy. Sometimes it's sabotage. For tech giants, allowing cracks can be a long-term funnel. For small devs and artists, it can be fatal. Even Bill Gates later admitted that tolerating piracy turned out to be Microsoft's best long-term strategy. Because millions of unofficial copies spread through places like China, Windows now runs on the vast majority of PCs. They're making it easier for Microsoft to outcompete Linux and other rivals. Only after the habit was locked in did Microsoft roll out ultra-cheap student bundles, sometimes as low as $3, to convert those users into paying customers. Lesson: when a product's value is high and switching costs are real, letting people in for free, legally or not, can seed a market faster than any marketing budget. But the conversion only happens if the product keeps its promise, because, in the end, strategy may open the door, but only lasting value creates loyalty. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to Mr. Simple Bob, where we make complex business ideas simple and useful. Thanks for watching. And remember, in business, giving away a little today can win you everything tomorrow.